it truly has to say. Thanks so much, Ashit, for joining me today and giving us that bit of perspective. Let's turn global and go to Bundeep Singh Rangar, the chairman of IndusView, who joins us from London to talk about his perspective of the market situation right now. Bundeep, hi, thanks so much for joining in. I'll jump straight to the point, Bundeep, something that concerns me and my viewers, and that is the Indian markets. And the view, according to some, is that now we are at the high end of the valuation band, and therefore any global uncertainty that may come up will be headed for a sharp fall. You think that could happen?
Good morning. I guess there's 2 points there. Is it highly valued today? Yes, it's at the upper end of where it was back in early 2008, about 20x, 2021 P multiples. Does that mean that this is a bubble ripe to burst and any global impact, any event globally will impact it? India is so insulated in some ways from the global economy, which is why we're still growing there at 8-9%, while the Western world is much slower. I'm not sure if it's domestic or international that will really affect things. It is definitely at a peak that could burst, but I'm not sure if the trigger event is really going to be a global one or more of a domestic one.
What could it be then? Could it be something from the domestic front? Anything that kind of you look around and you say that, hey, you know, this probably looks like something that could become a bit of a concern in the near to the medium term?
Well, clearly one of the concerns in India is inflation, and I think if that, as long as the corporate growth story is there and you've got 20 to 30% corporate growth at the top end of the Indian corporate world, then the PE ratio of 2021 is supportable. But anything that causes a negation there, whether it's a currency fluctuation, if the rupee rises and that impacts exports, if oil prices get more expensive and that again affects India's current account deficit, or largely speaking something that happens geopolitically or even, let's say, concerning terrorism that we saw in the past when there was a sharp decline. So it's any one of those domestic factors coupled with an impact economically where India pays a heavy price one way or the other in its economy. I think that's really what the trigger is going to be. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to fall by itself. I think the underlying economy is pretty robust, and that's what's supporting this PE ratio.
Great. Bundeep, what is it that would excite you in India right now? I mean, people talk about infrastructure as one pocket, ports is something that attracts a lot of investment, so on and so forth. Anything in India that you would say that, hey, my bet is on this space for the next 3-4 years, it will definitely make money?
Sure. I mean, I think financial services is a key area. The banks in India are robust. They are largely insulated again from what we saw in the Western world the last few years. And they were one of the most adversely affected in the downturn when you saw stock market valuations dip in March 2009. So I believe they're amongst the most likely gainers. I think the banking system is being reformed, and that's going to lead to all kinds of new entrants and competition. So I would bet heavily on the financial services sector. India is still a very largely untapped market. There's a lot of savings that has to be translated into stock market equity, and that's going to give rise to a fair amount of financial interest. The other one I would look at is healthcare. I think India is still a vastly underserved healthcare market, and I believe that both across the premium end of it and the mass market, there's a huge room for growth, and that's again being seen in some ways in the new entrants and valuations there. I've got a couple more sectors if you have time, but it really depends.
Great. Bundeep, one quick word really on telecom, because we just heard today about how more 3G spectrum is up for grabs, and therefore the incumbents would definitely benefit. What's your sense?
Telecoms, really, I think on the voice side, you've got absolutely commoditized a market there, so I'm not holding out much opportunity for growth. Sure, revenue, but not really growth. I do believe that the 3G sector could grow as long as the focus is on data and the provision of value-added services, mobile entertainment, and new devices, iPad-like devices that are domestically produced for $50 that become a mass market device. That'll drive data traffic. And data is, of course, being promoted by the government when it comes to e-learning education and generally, again, financial information distribution. So the telecom story is great as long as you're looking at it from a data perspective, and the 3G payoff there could happen. On a pure traditional voice basis, India's played out there.
Great, Bundeep, I appreciate you joining us today and giving us that perspective. And have a great last 2 days of the week as well. Thanks so much for joining in. That's the view from IndusView on the Indian markets. That time up on this show, Chartbusters takes forward the action. Asha joins me in the studio. Hey, Asha.